I was joking when we first started this morning and wondered if we could hire Joel Osteen to come be our audiovisual person, because after all, that's the way he started. But yes, it is. And he studied at the University of Houston in audiovisuals and went to work for his dad, filming his services. So if anyone would like to become a future Joel Osteen and start out with the audiovisuals, you're more than welcome to join us. But thank you again for being here this morning. And as we've said each Sunday, this month has been Friendship Month, and we've been sharing the love and sharing the light as we go along. And today we're going to start talk about utilizing your invisible power. Now remember a moment ago when we said the Declaration of Principle, we said that we believed that there was a creative intelligence operating throughout the universe and that we could use it. And so we're going to talk about that power or that force. And so I'd like to start it off with, may the force be with you. Okay? That's the power that's within you, the force that it will be with you. Because we all have access to this invisible power, which really leads us and immediately taps into that field of unlimited possibilities that are there for us. And David read a reading that said that everything is created twice, once in the mind and then once in form. And we've already introduced you to this power this month, and which taps into that field of possibilities. But today we're going to really lay claim to the full potential of using that power and that force. So to set the stage for it, I want to tell you a story. And it is a true story. And then I want to offer you some thoughts so that you can make some comments or some comments that have been made about this story before. But the setting is in the mid-1400s in Italy. And there were, sculptors were commissioned to create a series of 12 large biblical figures for a cathedral in Florence, Italy. And it took over 60 years to get the first two of the statues completed. And in 1464, the artist Agostino de Duccio was commissioned to sculpt the third. Now, if you don't think my Italian's very good, that's okay. You can pronounce it the way you want to. But a giant block of marble was mined and brought all the way from the quarry to the northern Tuscany for the piece that he was going to sculpt. And through a great amount of effort and extreme expense, it took to bring that piece of marble there. And De Duccio spent 2 years on the project, but he did not get very far. Now, he only had begun shaping the legs, feet, and the figure when, and I quote, his association with the project ceased. Now, in the words of the Wikipedia, where I picked up this story, I'd say that he was fired because he wasn't making the progress that he needed to make. Well, a year later, in 1467, another artist, Antonio Rossellino, was commissioned to take up where De Duccio left off. However, Rossellino did not get very far either before he was fired and the project was abandoned. Now, it wasn't abandoned for just a few months. It was, or even a few years. Rather, it was abandoned for 25 years. And for 25 years, that huge block of marble lay neglected and deteriorating in the yard of the cathedral workshop. And then in 1501, the authorities were determined to find an artist who could take the large piece of marble, which they called the Giant, and turn it into a finished work of art. And they ordered it to be raised on its feet so that a master experienced in this kind of work might be able to examine it in further detail and be able to express their opinion about what the future could be for it. So many artists were consulted on this project, including Leonardo da Vinci. But it was a young artist, only 26 years old, who convinced the church authorities to give him the commission. And on August the 16th, 1501, Michelangelo was given the official contract, and he soon began carving the statue. And he worked on the massive biblical hero for 3 years, and in 1504, David was complete. Now, although Michelangelo was an artistic genius with many capabilities, he considered sculpting to be the highest form of art because, among other reasons, he believed it mimicked divine creation. Now, meaning he worked under the premise that David was already in the block of marble, of stone, just waiting to be seen and revealed. And his job was simply to chisel away that which was not David. And about that block of stone, Michelangelo said, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." Michelangelo used his invisible power to create a work of beauty and an art that has withstood the test of time. And if you've never seen David, it is absolutely one of the most beautiful sculptures I've ever seen. And there's an eeriness about it, I would say, when you look at it, and mystical. And so if you ever have the chance to go to Italy and to see David, that would be a great experience for all of you. But he was using his invisible power because he knew that the statue of David was there all the time. And that's when we're talking about the field of unlimited possibilities. It's there all the time. You just have to develop the means of how to discover it or uncover it, as he did. And I'd like to give you some comments on people that had commented about accessing that field of possibilities. Muhammad Ali, the man who has no imagination has no wings, was a comment he made. Henry Miller, imagination is the voice of daring. If there is anything godlike about God, it is that. He dared to imagine everything. George Lucas, you can't do it unless you can imagine it. And I think you can imagine where we're going with this today, right? But let's do just a couple more here. Albert Einstein, who's a great metaphysician and I think a religious scientist in his day, I love his quotes. Albert Einstein said, "I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world." Einstein also said this, "Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere." And the last one, of course, comes from Ernest Holmes in Practical Application of the Science of Mind textbook. There is an irresistible, universal, and divine urge within us to be happy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life. The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels your growth. It is back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages, saints, saviors, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, and famine will have disappeared, if allowed to do so. And the last one I quoted from Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity. co-founder of Unity. It is your mission to express all that you can imagine God to be. Let this be your standard of achievement. Never lower it, nor allow yourself to be belittled by the cry of sacrilege. You can attain to everything that you can imagine. If you imagine that it is possible to God, it is also possible to you. Whatever possibility your mind conceives, that is for you to attain. And this is the law. Let none belittle himself or dwarf the supreme by trying to annul it. All powerful statements, aren't they? All powerful statements. But that's how powerful each and every one of you are. Our ability to imagine, to get a mental image of, to see in our mind's eye, or to get a mental equivalent of, is our invisible power to create the expanded possibilities for ourselves individually and for our world. And what is our mission? To make the world a better place for everyone. Our world that works for everyone. So imagination is one of our 6 mental faculties that we've been talking about this month, and we've discussed it a few weeks ago. And imagination is ours because we are an expression of God. And we are an expression of the words, the great I am. I am that I am. Which is the essence of imagination. Because when you're saying, I am that I am, you're saying, I am that I am healthy. I am that I am whatever you've been saying about yourself. So you and I both, all, have the power within us. It is a power that's virtually unlimited. And it has been given to us as our birthright. And to call forth from us and into our lives. And this isn't just theology, it's science. And science is proving the theological statements that we've been making. And science has proven this power. And I just think it's very fascinating. And looking at some of the scientific studies by Bruce Lipton and some of the recent scientists that have been working in the field of energy. But I'd like to tell you about a Harvard Medical School neuroscientist, Alvaro Pascal Leon. He taught a group of students a little 5-finger piano exercise. And then the group was divided into 2 groups. One group had to come every day for 5 days to practice this music for 2 hours. And at the end of each day's practice, scientists mapped how much of the motor cortex of the brain controlled the finger movements needed for the piano exercise. After 5 days of practice, the motor cortex devoted to these finger movements had grown significantly. Now, the second group also came every day for 5 days, but instead of practicing their music on the piano, they were told to just imagine their fingers were playing for the 2 hours. Imagine their fingers were playing. And then they too were tested. And to the great surprise of the researchers, they discovered that the region of the motor cortex that controls the piano playing fingers had also expanded in their brains, just as it had in those who actually played it. Now, according to, this is quoting the Time magazine article in which this research appeared. In other words, they discovered that imagination can actually alter the physical structure and function of our brains. Imagining creates new neural pathways in your brain which will make permanent changes in your life. This was reported in Time magazine in January 19th, 2007, and it was entitled The Brain, How the Brain Rewires Itself. Now, since that article was printed, there has been even a lot more research done about the brain and the flexibility of it. And Deepak Chopra is going to be here in town, what is it,